Hello and welcome to the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast, where we listen to people's fairy encounters. But take heed, we're not talking about winged Tinkerbells here. These are real fairies, real encounters that took people like you and I by surprise. Stay a while and hear their stories. My name is Jo Hickey Hall, and I'm a folklore researcher. Dear listener, a warm welcome back to the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast. I have been taking a break from releasing main episodes while I concentrate on writing a book which will accompany the podcast. Though I have still been releasing content over on Patreon, where you'll find our community group, the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast. A big thanks to all those who support me there, making this podcast possible. A welcome hello to everyone who's joined us there recently too. A couple of weeks ago, we held a group Zoom where our guest from the Winter Solstice Centaur episode, Michael, presented his Norse magic ritual practice to us. That was a very special evening. This week, we held one of our tea ceremony ritual workshop events with Todd Grube. Those are open to members and non-members. Check out the Scarlet of the Fae website for more details, as we're holding another one in the morning on Saturday the 24th of Feb. I also regularly release exclusive bonus episodes on Patreon, which you won't find anywhere else. If you're enjoying the show, you might enjoy the sense of community there too, with like-minded people. Or perhaps you can share the show with some other folk that you know who you think might enjoy listening. It all helps, particularly leaving ratings and reviews. It'd be great if listeners could pop over to your podcast listening apps and leave a review so that others can find us. Thank you. This episode was recently released on my YouTube channel. It's the story of a young man who encountered what he felt was an otherworldly being on the banks of the River Thames in the early 1980s. This woman, who had a transfixing presence, seemed to appear from nowhere and then disappeared just as mysteriously. Other factors at play here were a dark man, black dog, shift in behaviour, strange sense of stillness in the surrounding environment, and the fact that this took place at the summer solstice, June 21st, which, as we know, is a liminal time. Our guest feels his unnerving experience possibly bears some connection to stories of missing or drowned people, particularly young men next to riverbanks, which is always incredibly sad. Water fairies have always bore a sinister role in folklore throughout the ages, and given rise to parental warnings of figures such as Jenny Greenteeth and Peg Powler. In the bonus episode on Patreon, I share related folklore about river-related merfolk. We hear some comparable encounters submitted to Simon Young's Fairy Census, and we end with a particularly unsettling story that was posted on Reddit. It is a strikingly similar experience of a young man who came into contact with a strange being along the river in York, England, featuring lost time and other very unnerving and inexplicable factors. Both men view their experiences as near misses with beings from the otherworld, and they both feel lucky that they lived to tell the tale. I hope you enjoy this episode. As we begin to move through this year, already I feel the otherworld closer. Looking around in this Imbolc February 2024, we can already see the snowdrops, crocuses, and the many green shoots poking through the still cold earth. This planet is a strange place to be at the moment. We can sense the presence of the trickster in the chaotic external world. Masks fall, truths unveiled. It feels like we are nearing the point at which a crescendo takes place to bring us into the new way of understanding. Contrary to the direction in which the external world may appear to be leading us, I believe this new world we're entering is people-led, driven by love and community and an internal sense of truth and justice. Humanity's natural law, LORE, transcending legislative laws. But as yet it is still largely hidden beneath the surface, building momentum, peeking through in places, but not yet ready to burst forth. In this transitional time, as the sap rises within you, seek and inhabit that place of peace within yourself. Find your loving community who will sustain you through this year. Most of all, live your truth and always remain curious. Time to Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Modern Fairy Sightings Podcast. My name's Jo Hickey Hall, and I am here this time with my guest, Frank Scannella, artist and author. Welcome, Frank.
Hello.
It's really nice to have you here. I was put in touch with you via somebody that you know that was aware of a story that you had. I think it was actually published in the Fortean Times, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah.
Yes, some time ago. And it's a really interesting story. I'd really love it if you could explain to viewers and listeners what happened to you on that Midsummer's Day.
I've purposely, since I knew that I was going to be possibly coming on to this show, I haven't really told it, or haven't reread what I'd written and whatever, just in case it might jog something, so it's going to be as interesting to me. But no, it was, again, I think 1982. It was the 21st of June. The previous day, a friend of mine who was learning sort of how to sell ice creams had been down by the River Thames, down by Walton Bridge, the Cowie Sale, and obviously he told some stories. We were two young lads, and he said, "Oh, there's plenty of young girls come down here and we could have a laugh, come down here tomorrow morning, get some free ice cream and see, that sort of thing." So anyway, the following morning, 8:30, I set off. And because I was born 200 yards from the river, I just walked all the way from down there towards Cowie Sale. But it wasn't very sunny. In fact, it was overcast. It was very grey. And got there. It must have been around sort of 10 to 9, something like that. And he wasn't there, which I found odd. So basically, I just was walking around, and something which I actually remembered just before Christmas is because I was mucking about, not, just hanging around. I actually was I climbed a tree, and as I got up, as I was coming down, one of the branches broke, and I fell, and I didn't. It grazed the back of my head, but it didn't cause any pain or whatever. But I did do that, and that's a detail which I'd completely forgotten. Got up, sort of looked around to make sure nobody had seen me make an idiot of myself, and I went off sort of again down the river. So I walked along the riverside, going towards Weybridge, and there was nobody about, which was again really quite strange. Now, Walton back then is not the Walton of today. I mean, today it's just traffic all the time. Then you would get quiet moments, but not like this. It did seem odd. Anyway, walks down, I thought, right. And I got to this sort of like a little jetty sort of thing where little launch where boats go down into the Thames. Turned round, saw that he wasn't there, and I thought, right, he's obviously decided to go somewhere else because of the day was too grey, and he thought he probably wouldn't get much business, and he's gone off to Hampton Court or somewhere. So I thought, I'll walk back towards Walton Bridge and go home. So anyway, strangely enough, I was there yesterday because I also do football coaching, and one of our teams was playing nearby, and I went past the place, and I'd forgotten how it wasn't that far away from where this launch was, this concrete launch. And anyway, I went past there, and as I went past, now in those days, Thames isn't as it is now, where the banks have been built up and it's all concreted and whatever. There were areas where the Thames had actually worn away at the banks, and there were little inlets and little places where you would fish. And at the time, I was also a fisherman. Anyway, as I was heading back, I sort of heard a splash, and I thought, oh, could be a fish, could be, because the fishing season had only started again. I think it was the 18th. Right. So I went to have a look, and as I went to have a look, I saw that there was a girl there, and there was something in the water. So I didn't want to frighten her or whatever, and just walked past. But as I was turning away, she turned, and I saw her face, and then I just turned away and went. And I went sort of about 30, 40 meters, and I thought, you know what, she's highly attractive. I'm not doing anything. I was at a free day. My art exhibition, which was being marked, was up at Epsom. So I thought, go back, have a conversation. So I did. I turned around and I went over to the little inlet, and something pathetic. It was along the lines of, "Oh, are you an art student as well?" Waiting, something like that. I can't remember the exact words. She looked round. She seemed surprised, and then I actually noticed that the thing in the water was like this big black dog's head. That's all you can see. But she was highly, highly attractive.
Yeah.
And anyway, we had a long story. So we started chatting, this, that, and the other. She came up. She said her name was Nicola, that she was just walking her grand's dog, that she actually lived in Streatham. And I said, well, do you want to go for a walk? And she said, yes, let's go. I said, well, there's a lake nearby. We'd walk up there. And I thought, yes, I'm in here. Sorry if it's not PC to say these things anymore. Anyway, we went off for a walk, and we were chatting away. And going down to Broadwater, it's this sort of, it's about 150 meters of really rough track. It was then. Huge potholes, gravel, tree roots, very difficult, especially if it's rained. Anyway, we were walking down there, and we were approaching the end, and all of a sudden, I just felt really, really, really uneasy. And everything sort of started rushing through my head, thinking, hang on, this girl is all alone with you on the way to Broadwater. She doesn't know who you are, knows nothing about you. And for some reason, and the conversation had sort of stopped.
Right.
And the most stupid question came into my head. And I said to her, oh, by the way, I said, totally unrelated to what we're talking about, but you wouldn't happen to know why today's the solstice, but on the 23rd, it's Midsummer's. And I mean, the question itself was inane, and I don't know why I even said it, but her face sort of transformed, sort of into this really sort of angry, sort of, just, why are you asking me this? How do you think I would know? And I thought, oh no, she's obviously escaped from somewhere, and I'm alone with her. So I was actually frightened.
Yeah,
in a way.
Felt that. Yeah.
But no sooner had that happened than all of a sudden she turns round, looked behind herself and she says, "Oh, you're here." So I turned round and there was this sort of huge man, well, I presume a man, clad in leather, black leather, the black helmet, and he's astride this motorbike, all black with a chrome, just standing there. And she said, "Frank, you don't mind if you carry on? I just want to have a." I said, "No, sure," because I want to get out of there. No. And anyway, it was about 30 meters or whatever from the end. And at the end, it went right. There was a garage, which belonged to the flats that butted it. And anyway, so I went round the corner. So it was a sharp right behind this oak tree. And I was there about 30 seconds. And I thought, how did that bloke get up behind me without me hearing him? So I sort of leaned around the tree to have a look. Nothing, nobody. So then I thought, what the hell? And and I was quite fast. I used to play football at a serious level. And I was very, very quick as well. And I sprinted all the way down to the end. Not a sound, not a sign, nothing. So then I thought, what on earth? It just didn't make sense. And I thought, right. So I ran out again. And, sorry, that friend who got in touch with you actually jogged a memory. Going back, when this figure first appeared and she turned round, it was almost as if she made a sign, sort of a shake of her head, a quick shake of her head. So as if perhaps don't attack him or don't, it was something that also.
So she was giving him she was giving him
a boyfriend or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, some sort of sign.
Yeah.
But anyway, so at the end I thought, right. So I ran out of where we were, so back to Cowie Sale, still no ice cream van. So then I thought I'd run all the way to my cousin's house. She was at home, and I explained what had happened. And at the end of it, I told her exactly all the details. She said, "What happened to her dog?"
Yeah.
And she was right. The dog never came out of the Thames, never followed us, never went with us on the, and that was it really. And it was just, I've never been able to explain it or anything really. I mean, you can explain most things, but you can't explain the dog. You can't explain that the chap on his motorbike. These are things that I don't know.
It's so interesting. I mean, you've got so many kind of motifs of folklore there, and similarities with other strange encounters. You've got the fact that it's at midsummer for a start, so this liminal time, that it's next to a river.
Yeah.
It's near a bridge. Were you by the bridge when you first saw her?
No, it was further up, about 150 meters away from the bridge, maybe 200 meters. Yeah,
that bridge.
The bridge was in view, in sight, and in view.
Yeah,
I mean, the odd thing about the area, and if somebody ever wants to do some interesting research, is to try and see how many people sort of unfortunately end up dead there. Which is very interesting. Which would be very interesting because not a year goes by without 2 or 3.
Oh my goodness, I know, and this happens in lots of places. I know of lots of hotspots like that where usually young men go missing in certain locations. And I agree, it would be really useful to have a look at that. But the area itself has lots of history attached to it. So around Walton Bridge being the place that William Camden had rumoured that Julius Caesar forded the Thames. So this
Yes, they did say that.
area, yeah, I mean, of course, we don't know, but that whole area is really steeped in history and seems, to have a quality to it. So you've got the fact that it's, as you say, solstice rather than what we term as midsummer. So you've got that liminal aspect, as I say, the water side of things. And one of the members in my Patron group, Israeth, commented also that her name, Nick, so her name Nicola, so Nick is and Nix and Nisa, these are all terms for fairy and sometimes water fairies too.
Oh, really?
So, yes.
No, because on the day when I was talking to my cousin, and we were talking, and she said, "Well, her name Nicola." She goes, Nicholas, it's the devil. That's the devil's name, isn't it?
Old Nick, yeah.
Old Nick, yeah. That's what we were saying. Yeah.
Interesting. And I mean, it makes you wonder, with the dog, because then you've got black dog.
Yeah.
You've got a black dog there. Plus this man in black.
Yeah.
This huge man in black turns up. Or the black man, I should say. The dark man. He is a dark man. Even his face is covered by the black helmet. And it kind of, if you're really going to get stuck into this, you start to ask yourself, did the dog shape shift? Was there a shape shifting thing going on there from a dog that is there behind you? Potentially the dog was there, of course, never came. But what does come is this dark man, mysterious man. And somehow goes with him. I did wonder about, so you'd mentioned that there weren't any cars that day.
No, it was bizarrely quiet.
Right.
It was usually, but hardly anything went past.
Yeah. And the cars you did see, I don't know whether you would have noticed, were they of that era? And was her hair and clothes, were they of the modern era? So we're talking 1982, 1983, something.
Obviously it happened a long time, 82.
Yeah.
Since then I've conversed and talked with many. No, it wasn't a time slip.
Okay.
Definitely. Everything was still as I remembered it the previous day. I'd been down there the previous day.
Yeah. The
only thing is remembering back is that perhaps she was doing something rather than playing with her dog, or I don't know what she was doing in that little inlet. And then obviously there was the splash, which that's what made me turn back round. I don't know whether that was done on purpose or it was just.
And before that, you hadn't noticed her. So you'd been walking in the area, but you hadn't noticed her.
Absolutely.
Then there's the splash.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yes, because I'd passed the exact spot where she was 5 minutes before.
Yeah.
And I hadn't noticed.
You hadn't noticed her. So she suddenly appears and she's got this jet black hair. Can you describe her?
Her sort of really very pale skin. Her eyes, though, now they were so green. I mean, really green. And that was the full lips. As I said, jet black hair. I can't, for the life of me, remember what she was wearing. But it was because she was so attractive, because her face was so, really, really was, unusually attractive.
And to a young man, you were sort of 18 or 19.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I'm not. I'd had plenty of girlfriends and whatever, this, that, and the other. So it was not as if, but she was so stunning. It was, highly, wow.
And I mean, water sprites, water fairies, they are often sexually alluring. You think of, mermaids. You were a fisherman. There's another kind of connection there with you and your relationship with the water. And the fact that I didn't realise before tonight that you were actually born in the area as well. So this is
Oh,
your
and
environment.
and sort of 400 yards further down from where I'd come up, near obviously where I live, I nearly lost my life when I was 7. I was
Gosh.
walking with my grandfather, and he was taking myself and my next brother down, who was 3 at the time. So I might not even have been 7. I might have been 6. And he had him. Obviously, he was holding him, and I don't know, something distracted him. I got away from my grandfather and I slipped into the Thames.
Oh.
And it was quite fortunate that I just hung on to some grass at the side, and he was able then to quickly grab me and pull me back up because it was quite strong. But
Yeah.
yeah, but we'd always, played in and around the Thames, and we're always there. So yes.
That is a major, I think, factor here too, that you have already had this very near miss with the Thames. Because the Thames, it's a very fast flowing river. The currents are extremely strong, obviously, because it's a tidal river.
Yeah.
For those that don't know the Thames very well, I certainly would be, that's you were very lucky. You were extremely lucky.
No,
And
I was.
so, you've got away again, haven't you?
Yeah.
Potentially in this situation. Your friend, what happened? Did you ever find out why he wasn't there that day?
Yes, he had said it was exactly as I surmised. It was the day was so grey. He thought we're not going to get much business down by Cowie Sale, and he had gone elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But
Well, at least that detail of the mystery was cleared up then.
yeah, no, it was just
Yeah.
circumstances
Yeah.
which led that to happen. Which I don't know. I mean, it's 40 years and it still bugs me, and it shouldn't really, but I just can't explain it. And having sort of a family that is very towards science, and it's something which I can't explain now. I mean, we've toyed with the idea of having hypnosis and regressing myself and seeing it, but I'm 62, and what details could we possibly get,
Well,
really?
it's more about. I'm sure it'd really work if, potentially if you wanted to. It's more about whether you want to do that or not. But I think that if you wanted to, it's definitely worth a try. Looking at that, but it's you have to really take that decision. You can't just take that decision lightly, because this is potentially quite a pokey experience with things going on there that could blow your mind a little bit if you sort of dwelled on the potentials of this. So I guess that's something you'd have to think about. But I shouldn't be put off by the fact that you're 62, still young. So I think
Yeah, you think,
if you were tempted, go for it.
yeah, what you think? Oh, what's the point? What's the end game in
Yeah.
the end? We're never going to know, are we? That's the thing that's so annoying to me
No.
personally.
What do you think? What do you think it was about?
Um, as I said, for 40 years we've been going over it and whatever, and friends, family, and whatever. We've discovered other things and linked other things, and I have 2 close friends who 2 years before that incident had chased it might have been an orb, a small orb or whatever, but they chased a light in a small field that used to exist in Walton. Doesn't anymore. It was abandoned allotment, and it wasn't a firefly or anything like that, because it was larger. It was the size of bigger than a golf ball, smaller than a tennis ball.
Mm.
And they chased it into a patch of rhubarb, and both of them went towards it, but when they obviously looked, there was nothing there. That happened.
Yeah.
And other sort of odd occurrences. And I don't know. Walton used to be a very different place to what it is now, strangely enough. And I don't
know. Is it much more built up now?
Yes, it is. Every sort of space now is utilised for.
Yeah.
It's quite sad.
And had your family lived there for some generations then?
No, my parents came over. Well, my father came over in '56 on a work permit to work on farms, and my mum came over in '58, and then I was born in '61.
Yeah,
but born obviously in Walton and lived in Walton. Yeah.
Just because of the mention of your granddad, I thought, oh, perhaps he was local to the area as well. It's often this relationship with our environment is often enriched if we've been there for a few generations too. There's something about that too. But it's a really fascinating story. As you say, it leaves us with lots of questions. There are a few, encounters like this that happen in fairly urban areas, or fairly, let's say, busy-ish areas frequented by locals. And as we've discussed, there are lots of, particularly by the sides of canals and rivers, stories of young men going in, and it kind of speaks to the 411 mysteries too of missing people. I think it's very interesting, and yeah, I agree that it'd be awful to look at the stories because it's very sad, but it should really research on this should really take in looking at potentially sort of missing persons and
the whole stretch from, let's say, Shepperton Lock to Molesey Lock. I think it would be surprising to see how many people have lost their lives.
Oh gosh, yeah,
it really would be, I think, eye-opening, really.
After that experience, did anything shift in your life? And I know that, and it'd be great if you could explain in a minute, describe the book that you wrote about your childhood, which was, it's a really interesting early childhood that you'd had, pretty, again, really mind-blowing. And again, with lots of examples of you being able to navigate tricky situations and get yourself safe, right? So there's something in that as well. But do you feel that after that experience, anything shifted for you at all, or put you on a path?
The thing was that straight after that, because my art exhibition was to get my pre-BA foundation course stick, or whatever it was at the time, award, and I went off to do my degree, and I was in Wales for 3 years. So that was more or less straight in that September. I went off to Wales. While I was in Wales, I went for a term, obviously, in the United States and whatever.
Oh, wow.
But whenever I could, I did try and get back for the 21st to go down there, to do the same walk around the sea. Nothing. And it was disappointing, that you could never. The frustrating thing about it is that it was obviously so odd, and I'm frustrated with myself because I didn't notice that the dog didn't follow us. I had noticed that, then I could have, because at no point did I actually, we brushed shoulders, that sort of thing, but I didn't touch her or whatever. So I presume she was real, and she had to be real because, but you're so close to something which was not of this world, let's say. That's the impression I was left with afterwards.
Yeah.
That she's, from a, different dimension, different world, different whatever. I was so close to knowing. That's the frustrating thing for me. You're so close to finding something out about this world in which we live that you're not aware of. And it's just, because again, people have asked me whether was she wearing old clothes? Was she wearing medallion? And she wasn't wearing anything that stood out as old or out of place.
No.
That was it. And the chap on the motorbike, I don't know motorbikes, but it was just huge, black and chrome.
Yeah,
even bigger,
Yeah. But I guess the part that really shifted for you in terms of knowing something was up was when her face changed.
Oh yeah, yes. I mean, why have you gone nuts over a sort of innocuous question like that? What have I said that's offended you so much? No, just
it's like you with that, and I'm figuring that naming, the solstice, maybe undoing something in that, maybe undoing some kind of hold that you're naming it. This is the hold. This is why we're having this experience. For instance, of course, we don't know. Naming it. And then it's like, because in a lot of folklore as well, there's this idea of once you know the being's name, you have power over them. And so if for some reason naming the means of power in that moment released something, I mean, I'm just completely going off on one now, but I'm just kind of wondering about how, moments and shifts, how things can turn from one state to another. And also I'm just really feeling really strongly that there's something within you, that there's kind of like, because of your experiences, and as I say, hopefully you can tell us about that in a moment, but there seems to be this kind of deep intuitive wisdom within you. I think it's not too strong to say that allows you to perhaps sniff out, first of all, when there's something amiss, and to know intuitively and to trust that, to get yourself out of it in a way that's not logical, it's not rational, because you do not deal with these kind of situations like that. It's something else. It's something innate, isn't it?
Yes, that's interesting.
But a lot of us don't, we don't go with that. We might question that, but you went with that, and I think that's interesting. And it's I can totally understand why you would go back there. What's your relationship like with water since then? Did that change in any way?
No, it's always been the same. No, I've never been a great swimmer, but I can swim, and I've enjoyed it. Water, with my children and whatever, and the Thames was always idiots swimming in the Thames, and obviously risking our lives in those currents. But you were born there, you knew it, you grew up with it, so it was just normal for us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for listening. It's very cathartic, actually, when you actually talk about it. And I haven't. Usually over Christmas, everybody always asks me, Frank, tell us about it. Tell us about it. It's always, it's a creepy story, but I didn't do it this time. I thought, no, I'll save it. I'll save it and see what I say to Joe. It'd be quite interesting.
Oh, I'm really honoured. Thank you. And I'm glad you are telling your family, because this is really important, because it's, this is a story that will be passed down in the family as well.
Oh no, they take no. It won't
Oh,
be
they just
passed on
take
because
they
they
take
make
the
fun of me
piss.
non-stop.
Okay.
No, I am.
Okay.
I, I, I'm the. I mean, it's a horrible thing to say because it happened to, but I'm the odd one in the family because of these experiences and whatever. But what can you
Oh,
do?
that
It
us.
happened, and I can't say it didn't.
No, that's it. And I think that we can wear our sort of black sheep badge as it's a badge of honor, I would
That's
say.
right,
All the
absolutely
best
right.
people are black sheep. But I mean, they still want to hear it, even if they're saying that they're,
Yeah, oh, no,
making fun of it, they still
absolutely,
want
yeah.
to hear it. There's something about it for them.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, how can people find out about your books as well?
Oh,
Because
yeah, I've done, yeah. Obviously, I've done a children's book as well, which Sicilian Shadows. I think the hardback. It's just if you can find it in sort of secondhand, get it because it's worth quite a bit now. But I think paperbacks are still quite cheap, and obviously you can get it on the Kindle. So it's
brilliant.
Sicilian Shadows, but it comes with it's quite brutal. It's of its time, and it's in Sicily. So some people, if you're looking for a PC read, it's not a PC read. It's what it was like. I mean, I was thrust back into the medieval times, and people don't, Central Sicily, even in the 60s, was still hundreds of years behind
Mm.
the rest of Europe. So it was an odd place to be.
And that was as a really young child.
Well, I was 7, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were over there because my father had intentions of going back to live in Sicily.
Mm-hmm.
But after the time that we were there, he realized it wasn't a place to bring up children, especially if you wanted them educated and do something else with their lives rather than violence and whatever.
Yeah. It was easy to get embroiled in that.
Yeah.
There's this sense, often when I speak to people, there's kind of like a thread that at various points in their life, they're very close to death. They're very close to risk and, something taking them over the edge at any time that could happen. And certainly in the stories that are shared in that book.
Oh no, I must say I've always felt, as in this case,
Mm-hmm.
that there was something, someone, something that sort of forewarned me, or because it's always, when I fell into the Thames, my hand, yeah, okay, could have been instinct, could have been, but the only clump of grass that was there, I actually got hold of it. Another instance, and to ask such a question at that time, why do they call this the solstice and the 23rd midsummer? Why would you? Where on earth did I even think of that? I still can't. But something said to say that,
Yeah.
and that's what ended the whole experience,
Yeah.
which was interesting.
Perhaps it's a good thing and very lucky that you didn't get to know the answers in that situation, because perhaps that's at the point at which, something else happens. And so I'm glad you are still here with us.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to keep looking at this story and whether there's any more information that I can gather. And if and when I do, I will be getting back in touch to let you know.
And if I do go for the hypnosis, I will let you know, Jo.
Oh, please do. Yeah,
I will
I'd
do.
really love to.